Okay, so I saw this story. And there are certain reporters, when they talk, I listen. Ramona Shelburne's really, really good. ESPN. So Ramona Shelburne is adamant the Mavs will be able to strike a deal with Kyrie Irving this summer. She says they feel very good about keeping Kyrie. When they traded for him, they had an option to sign him for a 2-year extension. He wants more than 2 years. He wants 4. So the question is, will they be willing to go to a 4th year for Kyrie Irving? And I look at this, and again, I trust Ramona implicitly. She's great. So it doesn't matter if it's a podcast business. It doesn't matter if it could be any business. It could be a landscaping business. One of the first rules of business, double down on stuff that works. Something works early in your business, double down on it, seize the momentum, and move off stuff quickly if it doesn't. Don't be stubborn and think your idea is great. Amazon started as a bookstore. Netflix was essentially Blockbuster. They all moved off stuff, evolved, adapted. Now they're mega companies. Like, don't fall in love with your ego and your idea. If stuff works, double down. If it doesn't, get out of it. I appreciate the Mavericks' big swing on Kyrie, but it doesn't work. You can't double down on it. And I think this is one of the innate differences between pro football and pro basketball in America. In the NFL, teams don't get trapped. Everybody's scared to death to get trapped. In the NFL, even if something kind of works, OBJ to the Rams, concern for his injuries, they move off it. Juju Smith-Schuster to the Chiefs. Do you know he led the Chiefs in targets for receiver? It worked. He had a good Super Bowl. They get off it. He's distracted. He's immature. They move off it. Even in the NFL, if stuff works, they're more than willing to see OBJ's injury history, Juju's distracted history, and move off it. In the NBA, stuff doesn't work. A Ben Simmons, a Russell Westbrook, and teams will take another chance and another chance. Like Kyrie Irving and Luka do not work. There's 3 things and 3 reasons that are not going to change. First of all, they're both moody players. Like, they're just... Michael Jordan was relentless. Pippen understood that and could step aside for him, right? Like, you have to know what your star is. Steph Curry, not a defender. Clay took up the slack defensively when he came into the league. These guys are both moody. Neither wants to play a lick of defense, and both need the ball constantly. Like, it's not hard to figure out. I'm not an NBA scout. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. So their games don't work, and their personalities don't mesh. And I think that's a bigger thing than people want to realize. Of the many reasons Kevin Durant works everywhere is that he gets along with most everybody. I mean, he and Draymond Green had a brief spat. He and Steph Curry weren't perfect, but Draymond gets along with everybody. He gets along with Kyrie and Steph, Steve Kerr. He can squabble. But he works everywhere because Kevin, his personality, he's a baller. He's chill. Like, that's a part of it. And so the personalities here don't work. The games don't work. Neither wants to defend. Neither wants to give the ball up. And you know how, like, wine ages well? Wine gets better with time. Kyrie's like, he ages like dairy. It's good for a couple of days. Then it curdles pretty quickly. And then within like 2 weeks, it's either mold or cheese, but you don't want any part of it. Like, this is not going to get better over time. The longer Kyrie's been anywhere, Boston, Brooklyn, Cleveland, Dallas. Remember, this was pretty good for the first 4 games. And then it curdled. And now you don't want any part of it. NFL teams, and maybe they're paralyzed at times by this, but NFL teams don't want to get trapped. It's a hard cap. Even when stuff kind of works, there's a sense in the NFL, okay, pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered. Let's not get greedy with OBJ. He gets hurt. Let's not get greedy with Juju Smith-Schuster. He can be distracted. Let's move him. Let somebody overpay for him. Patriots on Juju Smith-Schuster. Ravens on OBJ. But I can appreciate the swing, but not want to double down on something. If Ramona says it, I believe it, and that doesn't work at all for me. All right, Nick Wright joins us, co-host First Things First. Any of those 5 predictions you do not like, that you dismiss, that you eye roll?
Well, listen, I think you're underselling Philly. I would like to say, Colin, and I can only do this because you and I have such a deep, long-standing relationship. You're not exactly going out on a bunch of limbs here, buddy. You have the Sixers losing to the higher-seeded Celtics. You're saying the Lakers' health could be a concern. You're picking the Suns, who are minus 500 to beat the Clippers.
What?
You like the Warriors over the Kings. I disagree with you, but that's chalk as well. And wait, you like the old teams, meaning the favorites. The Suns, the Bucks, the Lakers, the Warriors. Wow. I mean, talk about old takes exposed is just licking their chops at these chalky predictions. Now, I will actually go out on some limbs here.
Okay.
So let me talk about the Sixers and the Warriors, because the rest of it I mostly agree with you. So you're right. The Sixers have never made a conference finals with Embiid. They actually have only made one conference finals since Dr. J,
right.
Believe it or not.
Yeah.
That Iverson year, when they actually made all the way to the finals. So the best player in NBA history to not win a ring is a debate, something we talk about. We used to talk about the best player to never make a finals. Was that Chris Paul? But then he made one. Joel Embiid right now is the best player ever to not make a conference finals.
Yes.
Dominique Wilkins, Bernard King are probably the other contenders. I just kind of feel like he's due. I also think that Boston record is a little misleading because Philly lost to Milwaukee and Boston in games 1 and 2 of the season. And then you're right, they did lose the next 2 to Boston, one of which came on a Jason Tatum buzzer beater. That was the game where Embiid then hit the 70-footer that got waved off that would have tied it. I think Joel Embiid is going to be a man on a mission. I also think this, because you mentioned the Heat. I think it's very important, oddly enough, for Philly that Miami win tonight. Why? Because I think Miami could beat Boston up in the first round. I don't think they could beat Boston, but I think they could put some wear and tear on them that Philly's not going to have to deal with in Brooklyn and make it an easier series. So that's in the East where I disagree. And in the West, somebody has to put some respect on the Kings' name. The number 1 offense in NBA history.
Yeah.
Look it up. The most efficient offense in NBA history, 2 all-NBA level guys in Fox and Sabonis, home court advantage against a Warriors team that finished the year with 1 road victory against a winning team. 1 all season. It was against the Cavs months ago. So, well, I guess they also beat the Kings on the road when the Kings were resting everyone in game 81, but real victory. So, I like the Kings' chances here. I don't think the Warriors are going to be able to flip the switch. And I do think the emotional toll of this decade and the title last year and the punch and everything. Yeah. And lastly, I think there is a lot of people are relying a lot on Andrew Wiggins to come in and change the defensive dynamic. And he has not played in 2 months. That would concern me. So those are the kind of more, out on a limb predictions that I will give, as opposed to Colin, who's got his chalkboard out for this.
No, I think the Suns are going to win the West, and I do believe there are too many chemistry issues with the Warriors. Now you're going to put Gary Payton, who's very vital defensively. He's going to have to play a lot, so that means you take minutes from Jordan Poole. That won't play well. Kuminga, nice knowing you. You can't play. Wiggins is in. I think chemistry's been an issue with the Warriors this year, and I think they're going to ask some of their young guys to take a seat. I don't think it'll play well in the room. I think it's going to be a hard.
I think that's smart. I think you're right.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be. I don't think this is the year. Also, I think when you go, it's hard to win back-to-back because you add 25, 30 playoff games or 25 playoff games.
That's right.
For an old team, they're worn down. They were a bad defensive team. So I will say this, though. The Celtics are fascinating to me. Because what they basically did this year is they said, listen, we're just not going to play Robert Williams, right? Because we need him against Embiid and We're not going to play him. So they're very good, despite not really playing one of the more vital pieces. And so my takeaway is now they're going to play Robert Williams. But that means they need to get to the finals, or they're going to have to make a. I think the pressure is completely. It's a little bit on Embiid. It's not on Milwaukee. I think of all the playoffs, Boston has to get to the finals. And my takeaway is, if they don't, you've never been a fan of the Celtics. If they don't, what do you do to change it? Because their core is really good.
So the core is really good. I think that, to me, my biggest concern if I were a Celtic fan, and thank God I wasn't born into that life. I understand they won a lot of titles in the 80s and before, but give me a break. One title since the fall of the Berlin Wall, title town. Come on, Boston, do better. Now, but to the point. The big concern to me is the unknown at coach in Joe Mazzulla. Ime Udoka, as a coach, was outstanding. But going into the playoffs last year, that was a question. Yeah. How is he going to do in his first postseason? He did excellent. We don't know how Joe Mazzulla is going to do. So that concerns me. The other concerning thing, if I'm Boston, about the pressure on this year is they seem to have shopped Jaylen Brown so much that he's sick of it. Now, he might make All-NBA and therefore stay. They can pay him more. I don't know. But the interview he gave to the New York Times, the interview he gave to The Ringer, made it seem like he's not in love with living in Boston, and he's not in love with the fact that in 3 consecutive off seasons, they have made it clear that Jason Tatum is untouchable and Jaylen Brown is very touchable. And it bothered him. And so for those reasons, I think it is critical that they have another deep playoff run. I do think the most pressure, however, in the East is on Philly because they've never been to a conference finals, let alone a finals. And there are those odd murmurs that James Harden might leave and go back to Houston. Now, I don't totally understand that, but that seems to be out in the ethos, if you will, or in the ecosystem, I should say. And if they flame out in the postseason, it could be a tough offseason for Philadelphia. And, I'm sure they would try to trade for Dame and remake the team that way. But I think the most pressure's on Philly. I think the most interesting team is Boston because of the looming Jaylen Brown, does he want to be there question.
So we got into this yesterday. And it was J-Mac and I talked about this. Is that there are players that their legacy is formed, and it doesn't matter if they win. And one of them is Kevin Durant. And I think Kevin Durant, take out centers, is one of the 12 best players I've seen. I think he's a significantly better version than a great player, Dirk Nowitzki. It's formed.
Yeah.
I do not believe, and my takeaway is, if Durant won a title with Phoenix, and I think they certainly can, probably won't, but certainly can, I think they'll win the West. Who does he jump? Who does he leap? And yesterday, J-Mac said Kobe. I said, no, it's not going to be Kobe. He's not there yet with Kobe. So I'll ask you. I do think, like, take Patrick Mahomes. If he won the next 3 Super Bowls, then we put him over Brady, right? So he's not fully formed. He's a Hall of Famer. He's not fully formed. I feel like Durant, I would just say, plug and play, best player on one of the great teams, a little brittle, and a bit of a wander. Nothing's going to change with a title. If he wins, where would he leap? Who would he go over?
All right, so let's just, I don't have it in front of me, but luckily I have it memorized. Let's just do the list real quick, okay?
All right. All right.
So we have LeBron 1, Kareem 2, Jordan 3. Yeah, I said it. I believe it. Look up the numbers. Number 4 is Magic Johnson. Number 5, Bill Russell. Number 6, Wilt. He's not leaping any of them. Number 7, Tim Duncan. He's not yet. Yeah, Bill Russell, 11 rings, J-Mac, 21-0 in elimination games, greatest defensive player ever. Put some respect on the 1960s. It was an important time in the NBA. I'm going to keep going. We're doing all of NBA history. We're just doing the last 25 years. Right. I'm giving you the list. All right, you know what? We'll just do the last 50 years. I'll start over from Kareem to now. It'll make it easier.
Okay.
You got LeBron 1, Kareem 2, Jordan 3, Magic 4, not leaping them.
Yep.
Duncan 5, Kobe 6. I don't think he's leaping them. Now it gets interesting.
Steph Curry.
Bird 7. Hold on, my list, not yours. Bird 7, Akeem 8, Shaq 9, Steph 10, Dr. J 11.
Now they're there.
Moses 12.
Okay.
Durant 13.
Okay,
that's how I would have it.
Okay.
With the title, Colin.
Does he leap Dr. J?
Go ahead.
Does he leap Dr. J?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes,
that's the guy.
Exactly right.
Okay, so that's the guy.
And he maybe already has passed Moses. Some would argue that's very, very close.
Yeah.
But he's behind Dr. J, in my opinion. He leaps Dr. J with a title. The he and Steph conversation becomes interesting again, and then the question is, are both of them eventually going to supplant Shaq and Akeem? And next up would be Bird. If we just did forwards, what does Kevin Durant need to do to pass Larry Bird? Because Bird also, by the way, his overall counting stats are not that great because he didn't play that long. Durant's played a very long time, but he's dealt with a lot of injuries the last half decade. I think Durant's ceiling is one day supplanting Bird, but he probably needs not just another title, but another couple great healthy seasons to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's getting there. And so that's how I would break it down.
Okay, hey, by the way, so the Lakers start tonight. They'll beat the T-Wolves, though I would take the points. It'll be 6-7 points. And my guess, I know a lot of people think they're going to now, but the market's going crazy on the Lakers. The line goes up. That feels like too many casuals jumping in. I'm going to go with the points with Atlanta.
Oh, casuals. Okay. Casuals. Just throwing out casuals. Well, here's some non-casual info for you.
Okay.
In the 12 all-time playoff games, favorites are 11-1 straight up, 8-4 against the spread. Also, you guys can fact check me on this, but LeBron James, greatest play-in player ever, maybe, has a triple-double, hit a game winner over Steph Curry in the play-in with one eye, if you remember that glorious moment a couple years ago. That was on one leg with one eye, hit a game winner. And Minnesota, right now, is without their defensive anchor, who I don't think really helps them that much, but he does give LeBron a bit of trouble.
Okay.
Their best perimeter defender and their backup center. So Karl Anthony Towns, who, if you remember last year's play-in, fouled out of the play-in. In last year's playoffs, had 5 fouls in 3 of the 6 games. I would imagine will instantly be in foul trouble. I think the Timberwolves are in disarray. I do like the Lakers laying even the 8 points you'd have to lay. I'd be shocked if they lose. But go ahead. I didn't let you ask your question, but I just wanted to give that information.
So, let's go back to the fully formed reputation. And so most players' legacies aren't fully formed if they're in their 20s. Once you get to your 30s, yes. I don't think L.A., once LeBron won in the bubble, this was his mogul stage. He wanted to double his net worth. He did. He got but none of this matters to LeBron. Give me a break. Like Michael Jordan's last couple of years in Washington were a tire fire. Nobody holds it against him. Nobody cares.
His 20 years in Washington's been pretty bad.
All right.
Owner is still in the league. Michael Jordan's still writing that legacy. The worst owner ever. But I think what you're calling, LeBron's legacy can't go backwards, but it certainly can take a big leap forward.
How?
That's inarguable. They win the title. He wins the title in year 20 as the best player and the second best player. LeBron is going to make an All-NBA team this year, Colin. That will be his 19th. Bird and Magic have 20 combined. Jordan had 11 total. He's about to have 19. Prior to this year, the most points per game in a year 20 season was 17 by Kobe when he shot 35%. LeBron is at 29 on 50%. Game 82, he had another 35-point game. That puts all of NBA history in year 20. 35-point games. LeBron, 14. Rest of the league combined, 3. If they win the title, are you kidding me? What it means for his legacy? You might say, well, he's already the greatest player ever. Well, some people disagree with that. And he needs to create a legacy that in 60 years from now, when people bring him up and they're doing lists, the J-Mac of 60 years from now doesn't scoff disrespecting Bill Russell like that. How dare you, J-Mac? When you talk boxing, can I bring up Muhammad Ali? That was the same era. It's outrageous.
Well, we're going to disagree. I think I look at LeBron James, and my takeaway is LeBron James does more things well than any player in the history of the sport, and it's not particularly close. Greatest is very subjective. Eras, times, styles, rules. but he does more things well. Mahomes does more things well than Brady. That is inarguable. Inarguable. Now, production, Tom's the greatest, but you can't argue. Mahomes can do anything. Arm angles, run, deep, underneath. There's nothing close. And LeBron, it's not close. He's a stronger player than Michael. He's a better distributor.
Bigger, stronger, faster.
Everything.
Bigger, stronger, faster, more durable, more versatile.
Everything.
Did it with all different coaches, did it with all different teammates, did it with all different styles of play. You are correct, Colin. However, there are folks that are obsessed with counting these rings. And if LeBron gets one more, I think it certainly helps the case. Okay. I do believe that. And by the way, I think they're going to do it. The Lakers have been the best team in the West since the All-Star break, and I think the Eastern Conference playoffs, everyone's going to beat each other up. I really like this Lakers team. I like what they're doing, and I think they're positioned really, really well.
You have a little bit of a Bitcoin bro thing with LeBron, where it doesn't matter how often it plunges. You still, at your core, believe Bitcoin in 20 years.
How long?
It doesn't matter how often LeBron gets hurt and AD crashes to the floor. Your belief in them is so strong in LeBron that if LeBron rolls an ankle tonight, you will somehow, and I say this, there's part of you that I love, that your belief system, you're so deeply, you don't have any inauthentic.
Well, Colin, there are certain things that if just, you've only been right about for the entirety of your professional career, why stop now? I'm old enough to remember everyone abandoning LeBron James after he had a mediocre series against the Dallas Mavericks. Some of us said, I think he's going to rebound. And then he made 7 consecutive NBA Finals. I remember coming on your show in 2016 when I had a shaved head and not even a full-grown beard. And you were like, listen, there's no shame in LeBron losing to the Warriors. Steph's changed the game. This is the greatest team ever. And I sat on that couch and I said, if anyone can come back from 3-1 down, I think it's that guy. And then he did. And so you know what? He's going to the Lakers because he wants to make movies. And then by year 2, he's hoisting the trophy with 0 home games. Only guy ever to do that in the past, present, or future. So yeah, I'll keep making this same bet. It's worked out more often than it hasn't.
Nick Wright, first things first. The relentless loyalty to his belief system, which I love so much. It's good seeing you.
Take integrity, Colin. You could learn something from me. I don't say that often. Talk to you later.
Integrity.
Goodbye.
I love that term.